Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our weekly series of shirim on the Zohar Kadosh, where we draw the light of Moshe Rabbeinu down into the vessels of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and we allow the vessels of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to increase the flames of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the secret of the tzaddik who goes to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, drawing down the light of the tzaddikim to the place of Rabbi Shimon, to the place of Meron, is allowing the Torah of the tzaddikim, the Torah that comes down from Moshe Rabbeinu, to enter into vessels of ferocity and intensity so that the light of the Torah can be applied in a medicinal way to each and every person in accordance with their deficiency. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the one who was willing to say it's not going to be forgotten, Kedai lismoch alai. You can rely on me, says Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon is the secret that no matter how lofty the Torah of the tzaddikim is going to be, no matter how distant the Torah of the tzaddikim feels from us, to the degree that it came to the place where they thought maybe the Torah would be forgotten because of how lofty the Torah of the tzaddikim is going to be. Nevertheless, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, Kedai lismoch. You can rely on me because the job of Rabbi Shimon is to perpetually allow the vessels to refine themselves, to allow the light of Pnimius HaTorah to come down in a way that is applicable to each and every individual, in the hopes that it will be refuah lebasrechem, that it will heal the broken heart, it will heal the broken body, it will heal the broken parts of the emotions, and it will heal the broken parts of the self itself, and the secret of Bahai Safra Yafkin Megalusa, that with this book of Rabbi Shimon, meaning the vessels, the shame of Rabbi Shimon's ability to take the light of Moshe Rabbeinu and to conceal it so that it can be revealed in the particularly potent way that is evocative enough to break us out of our stupor, to cry out to the depths of the soul, to say, how long will you be asleep for? And to awaken us to the dream that is taking place at the heart of sleep, and by there waking ourselves up back to the nighttime possibility of Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah, as Rabbi Nachman describes in the secret of going out, someone who goes out on their own at the nighttime, they have the ability to be metchayev benafsham, that entering into the depths of sleep, entering into the secret of the chalom, to the secret of translation that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai represents, to the secret of the cave, to the secret of the ability to fall asleep, and within sleep to uncover the deep, deep secrets of the mind, that the soul is still connected to its source even in the moments of sleep. That Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that Torah of Kedai Lismoch, that Torah of the Gilui of that which was Ne'elam, of the revelation of that which was concealed, specifically through translation, highlighting the benefit of the human being over and above the angel, in the sense that we have to descend down into translation itself so as to uncover the depth of meaning that can only be revealed by way of the fall, by way of the descent down into that place of the tzafon, into that place of Marav Tuvcha, Asher Tzafanta L'Reyecha. The greatness is hidden away in the north, because the north is the place where the possibility of negativity emerges from, because it's only by the dip down into the worlds of separation represented by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's willingness to descend down into the cave. It's specifically there that the light of Atzilus takes on more of a ferocity to be revealed in a newfound way, which is why we're studying the words of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We're continuing in this week's Parsha, in Parshas Vayeishev, to touch upon themes that we've touched upon in the previous 2 weeks, and that is the nocturnal state of self, the loss of self, the descent of self into the territory of darkness, where the clarity of the mind is no longer revealed, where the mind is no longer operating in accordance with the clarity of wisdom, where one thing leads to another and that thing leads to another until the completion of the process is there, but rather the nighttime is a descent down into the polymorphous shape in which meaning takes shape, that there's different things that trigger my mind to think a certain thing, but then when I try and capture that line of thought, I'm confused by another thing and I'm forced to go to a different route of thinking, and all of the multiplication of the ways of thinking collide with one another to create that space of the concern of the nighttime, of feeling less of a certainty over myself in the nighttime, of the awakening of the fear that is inherent within the heart of each and every human being. It's all of these things that are awoken in the nighttime. The nighttime of the world is what creates the need for Torah Sheba'al Peh. Torah Shebechsav, the revealed Torah, is the light of the day. It's the sunlight of the mind. It is clarification without questioning, clarification without concealment. Torah Sheba'al Peh is the acknowledgement that every day gives birth to a night, and every night gives birth to a new day. And therefore, Torah Shebechsav, the sunlight of day awareness, is not enough. The Jewish mind also needs the moonlight of the exilic form of consciousness, which is the descent down into exile and the need to develop meaning out of the original shattering of the revelation of the sun, which is the secret of the development of Tarsh Baal Peh from within Bavel, from within concealment, from within the nocturnal state of exile and darkness, to the degree that we can uncover the dream of Shas, the dream of the Shisha Sidre Mishnah, specifically from within concealment itself. Shas begins with brachos, which is me'emasai korin es shema ba'arvis, because as the tzaddikim point out, the main question that we have to ask ourselves is how am I going to draw down faith and comfort and sustenance on a spiritual way in the territory of the nighttime? The question does not start off with when will I read Kriyat Shema during the day. That only happens once I start asking myself the question of when will I read Kriyat Shema at night, because when I'm aware of the night, I could also see how the night can seep into the day, and I also have to ask myself questions regarding the day. But the first question that poses the entry point of the Jewish mind as it takes acceptance over the fact that there is concealment in the world is Me'emasai korin es Shema ba'arvis. At what point can I scream out Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad in the nighttime? Arvis is concealment. It's that nightscape that Yaakov Avinu descends down into, where he encounters the sorrow shel Esav and where he prepares himself to encounter the difficulty of Yosef Hatzadik and the brothers. The nighttime is the incubator of the capacity for the individual to maintain a sense of meaning, purpose, identity, joy, continuity, faith in the heart of that which appears difficult. Me'emasai, the question of from when, is a time-oriented question, as we've spoken about so often, because time and the birth of time and the emergence of time comes along with the entry into exile, which is the sense of being late or too early, but always not enough time, always being chased by time or chasing after time. In the secret that Torah Sheba'al Peh is referred to in general as Zman Nakat. It's taking time into consideration, and it's the descent down into the particularities of the darkness with the earnest desire and the unfathomable will and awareness that the Jewish heart has that each and every one of these points of darkness that populate the world of exile are in truth reservoirs and receptors and vessels that are ready to be transformed into the deepest expression of light. That's the secret of Kriyat Shema. Kriyat Shema is Yichud Hashem. Kriyat Shema is aligning myself with the fundamental unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's existence down here in the place of concealment. But the question is, how do we say Kriyat Shema at nighttime? How do we draw down that radical revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite unity and the all-rightness at the heart of all thing and the Echad Yachid Umiyuchad Hayahov Aviyah? How do we draw that down into Arvis, into the place of Irbuvia, into that place of admixture, of not knowing what is up and what is down, not knowing what I'm afraid of and what I shouldn't be afraid of, being mixed up and muddled up and caught up in the middle and being stuck with all sorts of imaginings where our imagination has gone down into the territory of the body and awoken the anxiety and the concern of the body rather than ascending upwards to the expansive territory of the mind. And what that creates within the individual is an an anxiety, a condition of fear, not a fear of anything, but simply the uncontrolled element of being a human being. This is the terror of the nighttime. This is the secret of the chayos hayar, of the monsters of the forest that come out. This is specifically why the tzaddikim would go deep into the forests to come to teach a singular secret, what the Baal Shem Tov heard from his father when his father passed away. A yid cannot be afraid of anything other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Do not be afraid of anything other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. That was where the Baal Shem Tov took his clarion call to reveal the light. Specifically, the acknowledgement of that I cannot be afraid. I cannot allow myself to be afraid. That's the midah of Yaakov Avinu. The tzaddikim tell us that the Baal Shem Tov, Yisrael, is the secret of Yaakov and Yosef. It's the secret of Al Tira of the Yaakov. Don't be afraid. You're descending down into exile. You're descending down into the loss of vision. You're descending down into that territory where you now have that pagam on the kaf Yerach Yaakov, which is the pagam of Esav, which has now entered into the territory of our refined imagination, and now we remain susceptible to being stuck in darkness. And there's an ema that comes out from it. There's a concern, there's an anxious kind of unrest at the heart of the individual, which opens up the receptors. It opens up the self. It opens up the receptors of the neshama to pay attention, to be aware, to be prepared for that which rests just beyond the corner of my conscious awareness, to be aware of that there is unknown that populates the territory of the known, and there is a hiddenness that invades the place of revelation, and there is an invisible that shines forth from within the visible. The book of the Zohar awakens us to this inner fear, this concern of that which remains invisible to grasp, yet makes its present known by way of emotional sense. that territory of the Zohar HaKadosh says, fine, open yourself up to that sense, but take it into the outside of Eretz Yisrael and allow it to become the very place of the Chalom Adaberbo, that place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reveal himself to us by way of the dream. In the secret of Brachos, the descent into Torah Shebal Peh, of Me'emasai Korin et Shema Ba'arvis, of the terror at the nighttime of self, where we have to learn about Kriyat Shema Shel Arvis and Kriyat Shema Shel Lamita, and the secret of claiming radical unity and drawing the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu down deep into us, specifically at the precipice of the death-bringing sleep-like experience of slumber and loss of consciousness, and descent from Moichin the godless into Moichin the katnus, and descent from clarity into concealment, and descent from Moshe Rabbeinu into Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and descent from Yerushalayim into Meron. All of it is ultimately so that we can transform the dreamscape and that sleep space and that territory of concealment into an incubator of spiritual growth. That's the secret of the Chalom. That's the secret of Torah Shebal Peh. And it's no wonder then that the 9th parak of Meseches Brachos, which is the first place of Torah Shebal Peh, Brachos l'Rosh Tzaddik. The Tzaddik has to understand how to draw down blessings from the fact that we exist as human beings in a realm of concealment, and the first instantiation of that is the secret of Brachos, as Rav Tzadok says. Brachos l'Rosh Tzaddik, the osios of Brachos are Bo Keser, the light of Keser, the light of Nevuah, rests within the pockets of concealment that we're forced to encounter on each and every day. And it's specifically from there that we dig down and we come to the goodness that is inherent within the concealment, and we get to the most potent form of light, the Ostes, the hidden light of goodness, the Or HaGonuz that is hidden away. As the Zohar Kadosh says, that the Ostes has its Tuvul Gonuz Begave, that its goodness is hidden within it, because the Ostes represents a receptacle with a Yud that is bent into it, highlighting the simple truth that any time a person conceives of the particulars without any light, we have to be aware of the fact that the light is hidden and it's kindled, and that the Tes represents something good that is waiting to be revealed. It's a Tov that's going to be Niskala. And the 9th parak of Brachos, the goodness within Brachos, the goodness within the inherent possibility of the redemption of this worldliness and concealment and darkness and nighttime to a place of revelation, is going to be the parak of the 9th parak of Brachos, which talks all about dreams. It's all about dream interpretation. It's all about trying to uncover the remnant of meaning and light and potency of vision that is hidden within the invisibility of the night. How do I transform this nighttime into a blinding light that's even greater than the day? How do I transform the jungle into a garden, to a garden that could not have been made unless it had first and foremost undergone the process of being paved from a jungle into a garden? The benefit that comes from nighttime, the gifts of the nighttime, the gifts of the darkness, the descent down into the heart of darkness that Yaakov Avinu had to do in order to encounter Sarah Shel Esav, it gives forth gifts. It gives forth the gifts of Hanukkah. It gives forth the gifts of Chasidus. It gives forth the gifts of Kislev. Kislev is a time of concealment. Kislev is the time of the nighttime, a time of slumber, a time of the elongation of the night, where there is concealment that abides and there is confusion that is at the heart of the individual, and we're afraid and we don't know which way to look, and the darkness seems to be overtaking until suddenly there is an impossible emergence of light out of impossibility itself, a light that exceeds the energy source that gives birth to it. The secret of Neiros Chanukah, which is a hisnoitzitzot, a sparking of the concealed light that rests to be revealed in the future. That secret of the Or Ki Tov, that secret of the illumination that rests at the heart of darkness. That's the light of the Chaf Hey, the Ko, the Dimyon, the dreamlike form of vision with concealment baked into that vision. That's the Ko of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is the bridging of concealment, the first 24 days of Kislev, which represent the descent into the nighttime, which are the 24 letters of Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Vod, the territory of nighttime, the territory of dreams. And then on Chafei Kislev, which is the secret of the 25 letters of Kriyat Shema and the Yichud of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, it's the illumination of the pitron of the Chalom, the interpretation of the dream that burns forth from within the heart of the dream itself. That's the Chafei B'Kislev. That's the light that emerges in the nighttime of Kislev itself. But before we even get to the revelation of light within the darkness of the nighttime of Hanukkah itself, there's also a preparatory stage that takes shape within Kislev itself, and that's the yontif of the Geula of of Toras HaChasidus, of Yud Tes Kislev and Chav Kislev, the 2 days in which the Baal HaTanya was able to redeem himself from within prison, of Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, and the secret of allowing the nefesh to emerge out of its jail cell to finally express itself in Avodas Hashem. We're going to have a separate shir on this, but suffice it to say for right now that Malchus, the thing that is being revealed in Torah Chasidus, is the redemption of imagination, the redemption of the Dimyon. Yud Tes is the gematria of Chava. It's the unconsciousness that Adam Arishon is placed into, and the secret of that depth of Terdema, so that the Nekeva, so that Chava, his counterpart, can emerge out of him. When looked at as a full total set, the human being contains within himself the secret of Adam and Chava, the secret of Adam ubahema toshia es Hashem, the secret of the light that is above and the secret of the light that is below. And our responsibility is to unify the two of them and to allow the light of the upper level to express itself through the vessels of the lower level, so that the light of the higher level can be expressed in a newfound formidable way. Yud Tes is the secret of Malchus, but Malchus finds itself in prison, and it's specifically in the redemption of Malchus from within prison that we come to Chav Kislev, which is the time where the Baal HaTanya fully reveals himself, and the Torah of Chasidus begins to express itself in its fullest expression. What is it about Yud Tes Kislev that leads us to Chav Kislev? Yud Tes Kislev is the celebration of Malchus leaving prison. Malchus is Dimyon. Malchus is the possibility of imagination. The imagination that is born out of the sense that to be a human being in this world is actually to be a human being who is asleep. That our entire lives are like a waking dream where we are concerned and concealed within the darkness of exile, and where the overwhelming darkness that seems to pervade consciousness of being a human being in this world is consistently a nocturnal landscape where the individual is left utilizing their own devices to try and interpret their dream. As the Meshiloach says, that the entirety of this world is a dream, and it's our job to try and interpret the dream properly, and waiting for Mashiach Tzidkenu to come to interpret the entirety of history and the entirety of our lives in the secret of a dream. But first and foremost, within exile itself, we have the possibility of redeeming our imaginations and interpreting our dreams. That is the light of Mashiach Tzidkenu that expresses itself within this worldliness prior to the actual arrival, and that's the Torah of Chasidus, the ability to utilize imagination in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right after Shabtai Tzvi, V'kasa Arura, Yamach Shemam, as Rav Tzadok HaKohen Melublin explains, the entire Pagam from that place came about as a result of the misunderstanding of imagination. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed a profound radical power within the individual, which is the secret of imagination, to create something that is emergent from nothing that preceded it. The possibility of imagination is to conceive of and contemplate things that are not explicitly expressed right in front of me. Each thing is its own thing. Each thing represents its own idea. That's the realm of Seichel. The invisible roads and lines of connectivity and bonds of unity that exist between two separate things, that invisible territory of new forms of connection, that's the secret of the Dimyon. The Dimyon is the possibility of being Medama Lemilsa Lemilsa, to compare one thing to another, to abstract something from its identifiable qualities and to uncover the kernel of singular identification within each thing, to reveal how those two things, in spite of the fact that they look separate, are in truth representative of the first thing. Very similar to lumdus, which is lidmos, to imagine. It's not by chance that when the Baal HaTanya left prison, which is the process of the refinement of imagination, first on Yud Tes Kislev, it's the emergence of Malchus out of prison, the gematria of Chava, which is the utilization of that feminine principle of imagination for the sake of Avodas Hashem, to imagine myself as a tzaddik, to see myself as HaKadosh Baruch Hu would see me, to imagine myself from the best perspective rather than from the worst perspective. But then once the Baal HaTanya left prison by the Russians, the reason we celebrate Chav Kislev as well is because after being freed, the Baal HaTanya experienced another moment of concealment, which to a certain degree was more intense than the concealment that he experienced in the Russian prison, which was being stuck in the house of the Litvak. The Litvak who was truly fighting against the Misnagid, who was truly fighting against the light of Hasidus, trying to close it down. It wasn't the Oyev of the Russians, it was the Oyev of Hisnagdus from within. Just like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had to be in the cave for 12 years, and then he had to come out and then got sent back in for 12 more months, as the Ramchal explains to us. So too the Baal HaTanya leaves the prison on Yud Tes, but he has to also go into a new form of prison, which is the world of Olam HaTorah of the Misnagdim, because that was the final frontier where the tikkun of the Baal HaTanya and the tikkun of the Baal Shem Tov had to make its way in there as well. And then only on Chav Kislev does the Baal HaTanya leave that place, and that's the real celebration. But what happens here? What's happening? Imagination gets opened up. Imagination is revealed to be a formidable, utilizable tool in the realm of Avodas Hashem, the secret of Pitron HaChalomos, the imagination that is unleashed, and the free association and the freedom of the confidence that I have to understand the Torah in accordance with my own heart as it is expressed based on the tzaddikim, that freedom of dimyon for the individual to feel that they also can be b'nei neviim and that they too can intuit the true path for themselves from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as long as it's in line with the secret of Malchus and Hariyu Hashem Kol Haaretz and the secret of Halacha, that was still under lock and key. And then it had to come out of prison. This koyach of Malchus, bezichucho, the possibility of Dimyon, comes out of prison, and it then gets stuck in the house of the Litvak and the Misnagdim. And only then, once it undergoes the rectification that it has to undergo in the house of the Litvak and the Misnagid, then it comes out and it reveals itself in full redemption. What was happening in the world of the Misnagid and the Litvak, when imagination, when Yud Tes, when Malchus gets stuck there? Well, it's the process of the refinement of imagination so that it will work for both the realm of the Misnagdim and the realm of Hasidim, for the realm of Mashiach ben Yosef and the realm of Mashiach ben David. Because where the Baal Shem Tov and the Baal Tanya saw imagination as this new territory of the engagement with HaKadosh Baruch Hu by way of our own sense of self and our own sense of deficiency and serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu from that place, the Olam Halitai, the Olam of the Torah of the Vilna Gaon and his Talmidim, they received the element of Dimyon in a different way. It gets expressed within Shas itself. It's the secret of Lumdus. It's the secret of the creativity of the mind, which allows itself to take its imagination seriously, which is the secret of Lumdus. As we know that when, after 120, when people go up to Shemayim and they encounter the Manda Umrim of Shas, the question is going to be, did they really mean what all of the Achronim said they meant? Are all of these complicated mechanisms of abstract analytical thought by way of the refinement of imagination, are they in truth inherent within the intentions of the Manda Amar? And ultimately, the secret of Lumdus is that it doesn't really make much of a difference, because as long as a person has Svar Yeshera, and as long as a person is awakening their minds, and it's not necessarily Al Liba de Hilchasa, but it's for the sake of Torah Lishma, the utilization and the opening of imagination inherent within the Lumdus process is ultimately the same exact expression of the Dimyon as it is expressed in Torah HaChasidus itself. Both are abstractions of what is revealed in front of me, with the belief in the inherent depth and infinitude inherent within the text, which gives birth to the freedom of imagination. So that utilization of Dimyon expresses itself fundamentally in the expression of Lamdus as well, as Rav Yaakov Moshe Chalap points out, and then it goes from there to be revealed in the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. So we see that Yud Tes Kislev is the opening up of Malchus, which has descended down into concealment and gotten stuck in a place of hiddenness and gotten stuck in a place of darkness and the nocturnal state of concealment. And then we begin the process of interpreting the dream, of uncovering the secret of hearing God's voice from within concealment itself. But then imagination gets stuck, and the Torah says, what's going to be when all there is imagination? The Torah is going to be forgotten. So the unity between the Gra and the Balatanya and the Baal Shem Tov and the Balatanya and the Baal Shem Tov and the Gra that takes place on this second stage of exile in between Yud Tes and Chaf, that's the process of the Zichuch of Dimyon, the clarification of Dimyon, which is what the Baal Shem Tov came to reveal, the secret of Malchus coming out of its exile and being formidably used in the realm of Avodas Hashem and the secret of the Amunah Kol Zos. It expresses itself in the secret of Lamdus. And then we come to Chaf Kislev. And Chaf Kislev is the secret of the Chaf HaDimyon. The secret, what the Bas Ayin says, is Lech Lecha, go to Chaf HaDimyon. The entire secret of Chaf HaDimyon is the recognition that even though we don't know, we can still pretend to know. That's the secret of Dimyon. It's the ability to make associations, to pretend, to have a tendency inherent within our minds even prior to the actual grasp of knowing that tendency is true, because that tendency can never be proven, because it's ultimately rooted in the infinite, and therefore a pretending is a willingness to live within that framework in spite of the fact that it has not yet been proven to me. That's the secret of imagination. That's the secret of B'chalom Adaber Bo, and that's the secret of the Chaf HaDimyon. And once the Chaf HaDimyon is refined, it goes from the kavod of the Chaf to the keser of the Chaf, and it reveals the possibility of nevuah and redemption. And then we come to Chanukah, which is the revelation of the darkness of the nighttime itself and the possibility of interpreting dreams. And then on Chanukah, it's a time of revelation. It's a time of Ruach HaKodesh. It's a time of Nevuah. It's a time of the Zichuch of the Kalim, of the Medame, of the imagination, and to take it from the hands of Yavan, which is Dam Yavan. Dimyon is Dam Yavan. They try and take imagination away from us and say that all we can have is philosophical exactitude, when we see this a little bit in the Rambam, where at first glance the desire for philosophical aptitude seems to negate the value of imagination. But we find elsewhere that the Rambam also hints to the fact that the deepest secret rests in imagination as well, because it's the source of nevuah, it's the source of prophecy. It goes all the way up to Keser. And that's the secret of dam yavan, of taking the dam, the blood from yavan. Dam is melashon adam, which is melashon adame, which is the imagination, the singular principle of the human being. And dam is also the shem havaya, written by Achorayim, which is Aleph, Aleph Hey, Aleph Hey Yud, Aleph Hey Yud Hey, which is the secret of the process of encountering the Gevura of the nighttime and overcoming it and coming to that place of redeeming our imagination so that we could become Bali Ruach HaKodesh, who have chalomos and who have dreams in and of ourselves, and the knowledge of what it takes to have a dream accomplished in this world, as we're going to see in the Zohar Kadosh, all of which is preparing us for the derech of Nevuah, as the Heilige Piazetzner Rebbe writes, and the Heilige Lubavitcher Rebbe, Schusel Ganalina writes, the entire tachlis of Torah HaChasidus is the rectification of Malchus and the refinement of Malchus and the refinement of imagination, so that it can be ascended all the way back up to its original place, which is the secret of the Malchus HaGnuza Bereshad Lo Asyada, the highest place imaginable of Tzadikim Yoshim V'Itroseihem Berosheim, with our imagination perpetually expanding the territory of our grasp, where we uncover the pathways of the dreams and the malachim of my heart that I can send out to conquer more territory, where I can take malache libi, which are the heart dreams of myself, which are the dreams that are taking place through each and every moment, the good malachim, the bad malachim, the Yitzhar Tov and the Yitzhar Hara, and I can learn how to conquer the territory of the nighttime. And so Be'ezras Hashem, as we prepare for the Heilige Yom Tovim of Yud Tes Kislev, of Chav Kislev, as well as the Heilige Yom Tif of Chanukah, we'll look in the words of the Zohar Kadosh and the Parshios that are giving us a taste of this even before it arrives. The Zohar Kadosh says on Daf Kuf Pei Gimel Amud Aleph, V'yachalam Yosef, and Yosef HaTzadik had a dream. Rabbi Chia Pasach V'yamar, Rabbi Chia, the secret of Chayus and Chayim and Chochmah. Rabbi Chia Pasach, Rabbi Chia opens up, because in order to view the realm of dreams with a perspective of openness, it has to come about by way of Chachma. If I look at the dreamscape from a perspective of Bina, so then I'm already stuck in the Nefesh of Bahamis, where the dream has the possibility of taking me away from connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when I look at it from the perspective of Rabbi Chia, which is the secret of Chachma, which is the secret of everything being good, starting off with the general perspective that everything is good, then I can descend down into the nighttime territory and see it as good as well. And that's the secret of what the dream is, the goodness that exists within the darkness of the night. As we said already, it's the Roishem of Moichin the Gadlus that remains engraved upon Moichin the Katnus itself. It's the ability of dreaming big even when we feel completely unconscious and overwhelmed. Pasuk says, Rabbi Chia Pasach V'yamar, Rabbi Chia opens up and he starts with this pasuk. Vayomer Shimuna Devarai Im Yihye Neviechem Hashem B'mara Elav Isvade B'chaloim Adaber Bo. Hear my words, hearken to my words, open oneself up to the secret of Bina, the secret of Bina. So we're talking about the perspective of Nevuah, which is a language of Bina that comes about when the Chachma and the mind expresses itself in the heart itself. So hear my words, come and hear my words. When they're going to be Nevi'im, it's going to be expressed to them by way of a vision, which is the secret of being spoken to in a dream. There are many, many gradations of Nevuah, as the Zohar Kadosh is going to explain. Ultimately, the two categories that they're going to be contained within are Nevuah and a Chalom. Nevuah operates in this realm of Zer Anpin. It is an emergent secret that comes from above, down below. It is not something that is grasped by the human being themselves, but rather is expressed down below in the vessels of Malchus. And the Chalom is the awareness and the awakening to intuition and the awareness of something that is emergent, but by way of Malchus itself. It is nowhere near as explicit. It is nowhere near as clear. It is a Chalom Adaber Bo. These are the two levels of Aspeklaria de Nuhura and Aspeklaria de Lo Nuhura, that Nevuah expresses itself by way of two frequencies, the clear lens and the cloudy lens. The clear lens, the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, the level of Zeh Hashem Kivinu Lo, of this, as Rabbi Nachman describes in the fifth teaching of Likutei Maharan, that represents itself as something that is explicitly clear and it's not subject to doubt or misinterpretation, as opposed to Ko, which is a secret of Chanukah, which is Koyi as Aracha. It's something that's distant and away. It's something that is sensed but not grasped. It's something that's intuited but not proven. That's the secret of the dream that emerges from the realm of Malchus and the secret of Ruach HaKodesh, in which a person is going to be spoken to. Ta chazi, come and see. Kama dargin le dargin avid kutshaberichu v'kula kaime da al da darga al darga da le'el min da v'kula yankin ilin min ilin kedaka chazilan. Come and see how many levels upon levels HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created, each one existing on top of the other, each level a level above the next level. And all of these levels are emergent from a singular place. As a person comes and sees Chazilon ilin miyamina ve'ilin mismoila v'kula itmanin ilin al ilin kula kedekayaus. Look how many forms and methods there are for a person to encounter the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their lives. There's right ways on the right side. There's the left-sided types of ways. And ultimately, all of them are unified in a singular principle of the secret of encountering HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The elements associated with Chesed, the elements associated with Gevura, they all find expression and unity in the realm of Tiferes that then expresses itself down in the realm of the Yesod of Elu Toldos Yaakov Yosef, that Yaakov expresses his light in the light of Yosef HaTzadik. But all of the different ways of seeing and envisioning HaKadosh Baruch Hu and grasping some element of a hasaga in this world, a moment of clarity that enables me to move further with more confidence down the path of my spiritual alignment in this world, there are many, many levels. It is a subjective thing. If a person doesn't experience it in the same way that another person is describing it as being experienced, well, then the Zohar HaKadosh is a very clear answer. That's okay. There's many, many levels. All of them are coming from the same place. Im lav neviim heim b'nei neviim heim. If we are not neviim, we are children of neviim. Meaning to say, not every person is going to receive it by way of the nevuah, but each and every person is coming from a place of nevuah. And therefore, any hasaga, any feeling that a yid has, ultimately, when seen through the realms of yichud and after the processing of clarifying it from all of the admixture of the klipas noga and going through the process of hachna'a, havdallah, and hamtaka to properly understand the inner kernel of what's taking place there, all forms of creativity are coming from a singular place. Kedekayaus. Tachazi, come and see. Kol neviye de alma, all of the prophets of the world, kuli yankem mesitrachada. They all are drawing down that strength of the miracle of drawing down divine will down here into human consciousness in its concealment. It's all coming from a singular place. Migoy train dargin yedian, from those two known places which are Netzach and Hod of Zer Anpin. Netzach and Hod of Zer Anpin, Netzach Hod Yesod of Zer Anpin ultimately are the lowest levels of the higher levels which are emergent from above and express themselves down below. That's the secret of Nevuah, where there is a message that is coming from above and it is descending down below and it is expressing itself inwards to the lower level, and the lower level is serving as kind of like a garment to now reveal that higher level. So the dargin of the nevuah comes from the netzach and the yesod, the netzach and the hod, those two midos of Zer Anpin, which is what Hanukkah is ultimately all about and what Purim is all about as well. That's the place where the Kaf Yerach Yaakov was hit, because it's that place of netzach and hod, and the Kaf Yerach is that secret of dimyon, the secret of the orientation towards the possibility of nevuah, biyad hanavim adame. When dimyon is in the hands of the neviim, then dimyon becomes the very site of imagination. It has to be in the hands of the neviim. What are the hands of the neviim? The element of Yosef and David within each and every individual, the elements of Netzach and Hod within each and every individual. Within that machlokas of Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, of the Netzach and the Hod, of the two types of encounter that each and every individual has within themselves, of the encounter with Rachel and Leah, the battle between conscious awareness and the depth of intuition and creativity. It's specifically from within those places that it will be revealed the biyad hanaviyim adama. When we can unify the two tendencies of ourselves and come to see a unity between them, that's where the nevuah is going to ultimately come from. It's going to be built upon the secret of the netzach and the hod, which is the dimyon of the individual. That's the kaf yerech Yaakov, the chaf hadimyon, the secret of yud tes kislev leaving to chaf kislev. And yerech, as Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov points out, is also the rectification of dimyon. The issue that Yaakov Avinu comes away with from the battle with Esav is that you are still a person who has a madama. You still have a Yetzirah, Esav says to Yaakov. You can't be perfect. Yaakov says, of course I can't be perfect. You're the foolish one who thinks that you can be perfect. I'm the one who understands the secret of imperfection. I'm the one who understands that it's specifically within that irreducible kernel of human experience, which is dimyon, which is the Yetzirah, which is the drives of creativity. It's specifically there that Avodas Hashem is going to be revealed. It's specifically there that Torah Shel Peh is going to be uncovered. From within the keser of it all, from within the chaf, from within the chaf hadimyon, from within the dream. And Yaakov Avinu says, Avada, I have a pegam in my kaf yerach, because the entire nature of a kaf yerach, of imagination, is an inyan that's nifkam. It's by definition nifkam, because the ben adam is a balmum, and to be a balmum is not a deficiency, but it means to accept myself as a creature rather than the creator. This is the issue that Shabtai Tzvi, as we said in the name of Rav Tzadok HaKohen Melablin, did not understand. Shabtai Tzvi, the Kasa Arura, they saw the secret of dimyon, and they said, oh wow, the human being being can create something anew. We must be like God, and therefore, when left to our own egoisms and driven powers for hunger and craving and whatever it is that a person is seeking in a nefarious way, in a level of lo lishma, so that dimyon can bring a person to making themselves into an avodah zarah. The same thing happened with Edom. The same thing happened with also Ha'ish, where the dimyon of being able to create something out of nothing, which is the secret of a dream, becomes so overwhelming in the person's mind that they identify themselves with God itself without remembering the deepest secret in the world, which is that there's a pagam by Kaf Yerach Yaakov, that there is a blemish that exists within the heart of the individual, and it's the mum through which we come to uncover the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the secret of the gematria of Elokim, and it's the last name of the Shem Ayin Beis, and the secret of coming to the highest place of recognizing that, you know what, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I am a Balmum, and that's the way you made me, and the Balmum is the person who accesses that luzbon, as the Baal Sulam says. The mum is the luz. It's from that place that Tchias Mesim is going to take shape. It's that place of dreaming, of imagination, of nevuah that comes from the deadness of this world and opens itself up to the liveness of the higher worlds. That's the place of the pagam of the Kaf Yerech Yaakov. And therefore we see Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov says that Yerech is Roshei Tevos Yam, Rekia, and Kisei. Because ultimately, like the Tcheles teaches us, Tcheles is the secret of blackness and whiteness of Malchus, the lowest level where things, instead of going down into a place of destruction, in fact, they turn upwards in a radical secret of revelation, and the lowest point is transformed into the highest point. That's the secret of the Tcheles, as Rabbi Nachman describes in Torah Mem Tes, that in truth, Tcheles should destroy everything, but all that destroys is that which is inessential and negative, and what it reveals and hones in on is the essential Nakuda of positivity that rests to be revealed in the future. This is why we always need tzaddikim who feel that Tcheles is available now, and also tzaddikim who feel that Tcheles is only available back then, and then the unique tzaddikim who are aware of the fact that Tcheles is available now, but it's available now in the secret of the dimyon of Tcheles, and the secret of pretending that this is the real Tcheles, even though we know that it's not fundamentally the essential Tcheles, but nevertheless, we're able to do what we can in accordance with our investigative strengths to uncover the secret of Tcheles, but nevertheless, we're fundamentally aware that this is not necessarily the absolute expression of Tcheles, which is the very hinge point of imagination, the ability to see this worldliness, to see a color, to see Tcheles, and then to think, oh, you know what this color reminds me of? It reminds me of the sea. But there's no connection between the color and the sea, because I'm sitting here in my smallness with my tzitzis, and the sea is expansive. But once I open my mind up to the fact that, oh, this reminds me of the sea, then I can abstract my mind back to the sea. And once I've abstracted my mind back to the sea by way of memory, so then I can abstract my mind to the place of Rakia. And when I can abstract my mind back to the place of Rakia, then I can abstract my mind to the Kisei HaKavod, to that place of Ha'alama, HaNe'elemes, that's Meskala, the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the secret of bris, karis la'oiznav, that there is a bris that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forges with the ears of the individual, which is the secret of dimyon, of hearing that inner voice of prophecy that moves within the individual, that moves within the heart. And bris kris la'oiznayim, chaf, resh, yud, taf, is also Kisei, Rikia, Yam, and Tcheles, the secret of imagination, the secret flow of imagination's ability to climb up out of darkness from the Tcheles itself, from the Malchus of Malchus, from the dreamscape of it all, and build myself back up higher and higher to the point that I come to a place of recognition. That's the Kaf Yerech Yaakov. That's the secret of transforming the Chaf into a Chaf Hadimyon and being able to be Madama Milsa Lamilsa, to be Megala, Ruach HaKodesh, and Nevuah, in the secret of the Chalom Adaber Bo. Pasuk says, the typical orientation of Nevuah, other than Nevuah's Moshe Rabbeinu, is drawn from Netzach and Hoid of Olam HaAtzilus and the parts of Zer Anpin, and that's referred to as the Aspaklaria de Loy Nuhura. Those tzaddikim, those Nevi'im, were able to perceive the world by way of Ko. They didn't have a clarified vision. Dichsiv b'mara elov isvada, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to them in a mara, the secret of an image, the secret of something that is not fundamentally clear, yet nevertheless it is clear enough to create within me an awakening and an intuition and a desire to understand the meaning behind the mara, the picture on hamara. Manhu mara kamod itmar, chizyu b'chol gavnin it chazin begave, v'dahi aspaklaya de lo nuhara. What is this mara? Where is this nevuah being expressed? The Netzach and the Hod and the Yesod of Zer Anpin are revealing themselves within the mara, within the veil or the image or that which conceals for the sake of revelation, which is the secret of Malchus. That place where all of the colors join together to be expressed by way of the singular speculum. So Zer Anpin represents, as the Baal Sulam says, the three colors of Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, of red, which is Gevura of white, which is Chesed, and the green, which is the Tiferes. And it's those three colors that express themselves on the lens of Malchus to allow Nevuah to be expressed in the lower level of Nevuah of Aspaklaya Deloy Nuhara. And then again, we're not talking about the Nevuah of Moshe here. And beneath that is the Chaloim Adaberbo. There's the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to each and every one of us, and the secret of the Chalom, of the Chalma, of that place of connectivity. Dohu Chad Meshisin Benevuah. This is 1/60th of prophecy, Kamay de Ukma, as the Gemara in Brachos tells us. Te'ihu Darga Shisa'a Mahu Darga de Nevuah. And the Baal HaSulam explains why is this level of the dream 6 levels below the level of Nevuah. So we said that the level of Nevuah is the Netzach and the Hod of Zer Anpin, and then in between that you have the Chesed, Gevura, Teferes, Netzach, and Hod, and Yesod of Malchus, and the Hod of Malchus is the place of the Chalom, that place of translation, that place of the blemish on the Hod, that place of difficulty, of darkness, of Hoidi Nahapachalai Lamashchis, and Chol Hayom Dava, but nevertheless the ability to transform that place of Hod and translate that dream into a place of refinement. The Zohar HaKadosh comes from the place of Hod, because it's coming from that place of the Kaf Yerach Yaakov, and it teaches each and every one of us that we have the ability to interpret our dreams properly. This book is a book of dreams. That's why it's written in Aramaic. That's why the Malachim are disgusted by it, because it's about what makes a human being higher than a Malach, and it's specifically our descent and our impairment that makes us far more valuable, unimaginably more valuable, because we have the ability of transforming darkness and the Gevuros themselves into pockets of light. The imagination, which is an animalistic tendency, and instead of allowing it to give birth to the addictive cravings of habituation and the imaginations of addiction, to ascend it and abstract it upwards to become the imagination of Ruach HaKodesh, of Lamdus, and the attachment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I will speak to you by way of the dream. This is 1/60th of Nevuah. And it's the 6th level away from Nevuah. And it's the level of Gavriel. It's the level of Gavriel, who is the one who's in charge on the Chalomos. Gavriel, Gevura, the mind descends down into the landscape of the nighttime. And very often there's an orientation towards fear there. As the Heilige Beis Yaakov, the grandson of the Beis Yaakov, tells the story that he used to have fears at night. He was afraid at night, and sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night and nobody was awake other than his grandfather, the Beis Yaakov. And he would knock on the Beis Yaakov's door very gently, not to intrude on his grandfather, but to simply say that he needs him. And the Beis Yaakov, the Heilige Beis Yaakov, would put on his coat, take his walking stick, take his grandson's hand in his hand, and open the front door and walk out into the darkness. And the grandson of the Beis Yaakov says, and he would teach me how a Yid is not meant to be afraid of anything in the dark, reminding us that we're okay, reminding us that Al Tira of the Yaakov, reminding us, as the Baal Shem Tov's father reminded him, not to be afraid of anything. Zihirus, care, concern, awareness, all of these midos are fundamental, but pachad, that sense that I can't do it, that sense of impossibility, that has no place in the life of a Yid other than when directed directly towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in terms of the yichud of Yira and Noira. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh speaks out the secret unity between Yira and Noira. Yira means fallen fears, anxiety, terror of this worldliness. But what we have to do is elevate Yira, the fear that we encounter in this world, and bring it back, abstract it back up to its source, which is the place of Bina, to bring the Gevuros back up to Bina, to be mamtik, the shorish of all of the Yiros Nefulos, all of the terrors and the small fears of this worldliness, no matter how legitimate and authentic they are, and we have to elevate it back up to a place of Nora, back up to a place of wonder and awe in the orientation of Bina, that yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's so much to be afraid of in this world, but when I orient my fear towards you, then you'll take care of everything else, and all I have to focus on is the fear and the awe that I have and the awareness of the wonder of what you are and what I can't grasp and how much I can't grasp, and the secret of the Chalom Adaberbo. And that means that the Malach HaMemuna on the Chalomos is the Malach of Gavriel. Now again, what it means is that the malachim are states of mind. The malachim, the heart, is the site of the malachim. We have a malach Gavriel, we have a malach Raphael. This is the secret of the Gemara. The Gemara is also the malach Gavriel, the malach Michal, the malach Raphael, and the malach of Uriel. Because the Gemara is also about ultimately uncovering the pockets of imaginative energy and being able to create vessels of Torah Lishma, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is shoyre on the one who learns halacha, that the Madama is always looking to find expression in the mouth that is learning halacha. malacha. And God forbid, if it's a mouth that's talking about other things and the wrong forms of things, then imagination latches onto that as well. So the secret of Gavriel is the Gevuras HaNefesh, is the element of Kan Yarad Gavriel, V'natatz Kana B'yam, that Gavriel comes down and he plants a reed within the sea, and it's in that place that the emergence of civilization is going to take shape from. The secret of Malach Gavriel, who is the power that comes down and the intensity of the mind that awakens, it creates an earthquake within the self, seeking out more meaning. An earthquake cracks the surface open. It forces me to be aware of the ground that I thought I had a moment ago is not nearly as sturdy, but it also allows for the process of growth to come about from those new cracks. It's the secret of Hanoisen Sechvi Lebina Lahavchin, Hanoisen Bina Lesechvi, Hanoisen Bina Lesefri Lahavchin Ben Yom Uvein Laila, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives understanding to the rooster who has the capacity to distinguish between the daytime and the nighttime. This rooster, the Zohar Kadosh says, is the Malach Gavriel. The Malach Gavriel of Yodea Bina Leitim, that the tzaddik has the ability to intuit the light that is going to emerge from within the darkness itself. The Bina Leitim, the knowledge of the light that hides resting within the vessels of darkness prior to actualization. That's the secret of Gavriel. That's the secret of the Mamuna on the Chalomos. And Gavriel is intense. It's an intensity. The spirit does not know what's taking shape in the dreamlike scape. But nevertheless, we have to be aware that those of us who are encountering the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu by way of the murmurings of the heart and the wakeful states of sleep and the sleepful states of awakeness, so then it's all about encountering the secret of Gavriel, who is Mamuna on the Chalomos. Tachazi, come and see. Kol chalmad iu kedkayaus mehai darga kaasya. All good dreams come from that place. All good dreams and everything that a dream offers a person, everything that a dream offers a person in terms of a receptacle that can become a pocket of darkness, that becomes a pocket of illumination for light, they all come from this place of Gavriel, from the Malach of Gavriel, from the Gevura of Malchus, that needs to be elevated back up to Bina. And as a result of the fact that all chalomos are coming from this place of Gavriel, from the Gevura of Malchus, that mixed bag nature of concealment prior to its revelation, so therefore we understand the statement of Chazal that there's no dream that's going to come without wasteful things, because in that place of Malchus, in that territory of Malchus, in the Gevura of Malchus, obviously there's going to be things that appear to be extra, because it's a hustling and a bustling, non-stop processing that's taking shape in that place. We begin Kach, Minayu kshoit, Minayu kedivin, v'leis l'cha chalma d'lei ispe mehaigis mehaigis. And as a result, the nature of the dream is that it is reflective of its origin, and its origin is the Gevura of Malchus, and therefore it's the origin of two possibilities, either light or darkness, and therefore every dream, Chazal tell us, is going to have clarity and meaninglessness in it. And as Rabbi Nachman describes in the second volume of Likutei Moharan in Torah Hay, that there is a chalom al yedei malach and a chalom al yedei shade, that there are dreams that come about by way of malachim and there are dreams that come about by way of demons. Now what this means is that within the self, the process of gevura within the self can go in one of two ways. It can go in accordance with a malach, where it becomes a messenger to deliver a certain awareness to my mind so that I can engage with that newfound confidence in my day-to-day avodas Hashem, and that creativity and that imagination expresses itself externally. Or if God forbid the mind is polluted and it's stuck in a certain stuckness and heaviness, so then it's a chalom al yedei shade, and it's a place of destruction and emptiness and bewilderment and terror. And ultimately, these are the two pathways that the dimyon can take shape in. It can take shape by way of a positive imagination that goes upwards to influence more spiritual growth, where imagination is sublimated into the process of avodas Hashem. Or, God forbid, the imagination could go down to its natural territory, which is the body, wherein it becomes the site of craving and temptation and all sorts of heaviness and difficulty and addictions. And it's this secret that each and every dream is a mixed bag. It doesn't mean that there's some dreams that are great and some dreams that are bad. Every single dream is a neutral territory that has elements of goodness in it and elements of badness in it, elements of concealment in it. And it's ultimately, as the Zohar HaKadosh is going to tell us in such a radically clear way, it is not dependent on anything other than the interpretation seen through the realm of the articulation of speech, which is the application of Malchus in a real lived way. How am I choosing to see this imagining? How am I choosing to take this freedom of thought that has now been freed as a result of the dimyon of Malchus? Am I going to allow this to express more of a Malach orientation in my life, or am I going to allow it to express more of a demonic element in my life? Will it be meaning building, or will it be meaning negating? And that is ultimately the question of the chalomos. And therefore, the chalom is always a mixed bag. It has matters of clarity and matters of concealment as well. Begin kach, and therefore minayuk shoit. There are things that are true and there are things that are not true. And there's no chalom that doesn't have both of these elements mixed in together. Ubegin de ispe bechalma kula keda amrinan kol chalmin de alma azlinan basar pashra de pumya. And because this is true for each and every dream, so therefore we have another content that tells us that each and every dream follows the interpretation of the speech which is used to interpret that dream. Because we can have this rule that if every dream is a mixed bag, therefore the mechanism needed to establish the true meaning of the dream from within the irbuvia of the good and the bad is the next level of malchus, from the gevura of malchus, to allow the gevura to go to the malchus of malchus, which is the peh, which allows me to articulate the meaning to myself, which allows me to create the narrative for myself by way of hearing it from other people or by way of speaking it out to myself. That's the secret of being mamtik, that tendency of the dream or imagination to go towards that demonic side and to interpret it in a positive way. That the kol chalmin the alma, all of the dreams of the world, azlinan basar pasha the puma v'ukma. That we've already established that all dreams go in accordance with the interpretation of the mouth. The mouth is malchus also. How I speak is also how I create my imagination. Imagination finds expression in the mouth. Speech is ultimately an act of imagining coming into actualization. And that's what Rabbi Nachman describes in Torah Nun Tes. That's what Rabbi Nachman describes in Torah Hey in Tinyana, that ultimately malchus and our mouth and our ability to narrate meaning to ourselves is going to be the thing that determines the valence in which my imaginings and my intuition is going to express itself. As it's written, as the pasuk says, Vayi kasher patar lanu kein haya. And just as it was interpreted, so too it was. Meaning to say, the secret of interpretation of dreams is that it will always be like you interpret it, because the way that you interpret it is ultimately the determinant factor in terms of defining the status of that dream. That interpretation of a dream is not coming to uncover some hidden truth that is there from the beginning. That's what tzaddikim are able to do. But in truth, the interpretation of the dream is actually the process of meaning making itself, that perception and reception and contemplation and reflection and introspection. All of these processes that are taking shape within the self are in fact the process of meaning making and the development of interpreting our own dreams. And once we interpret the dream, that's going to be the way that life looks to us. This is the secret of the mixed bag of medame, and why the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh came to redeem imagination, along with the Vilna Gaon, who came to redeem imagination by way of lamdus, in order to take it out from the pockets of concealment that it had fallen into, where imagination run riot allows the individual to feel that they can reach some element of perfection. The Baal Shem Tov and the Gra came out to teach that it's an impossibility. Begin the iste bechalma kediva v'kshoit umila shalta al kula begin kach b'yichalma pasha tava. It's a very simple equation. Because the dream goes following the expression, the manifestation of how I'm going to choose to see this moment of imagination in the malchus of the malchus, meaning we said that the nevuah comes from the lower level of nevuah of the other neviim come from the Netzach, Hoid, and Yisoid of Zer Anpin in the world of Atzilus, that's Mislabesh within the world of Malchus, which is the Aspaklaya de Loinuhara, which will be interpreted in accordance to the individual themselves. But then beneath that level, there's the Chalom, which is the Hod of Malchus. And the Hod of Malchus is rooted in the Gevura of Malchus. The Gevura of Malchus is Gavriel, who's the Mamuna on the Chalomos, and the Hod of Malchus is the place where the dream is taking place, which is a mixed bag perpetually. And the Malchus of Malchus is the ability to interpret that dream. So what we have is the Gevura of Malchus giving way to the Hod of Malchus, and then the Malchus of Malchus having the ability to own its power to determine the valence and the meaning, and therefore it is important for a person to judge their dreams favorably. This is the secret of emotions. This is the secret of the redemption of imagination, and what Hasidus is offering a person, that it's good because I'm going to orient myself to it being good. It's good because I am willing to uncover the goodness that is inherent within it, and I'm willing to radically affirm the goodness that rests hidden there. That's why it's going to be good. That's why it's going to be more and more good. Zak Tehillah Gazayar Kadosh. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, now we're in the secret of Malchus. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, this is no longer Rabbi Chia speaking. This is no longer Rabbi Chia speaking from the side of Chachma. Rabbi Yehuda Amar. And Rabbi Yehuda knows how to speak about the dream. Because Rabbi Yehuda knows the secret of descent down for the sake of ascent up, as we're going to see from Yehuda in these week's Parshios, the binyan of Mashiach ben David, who comes about by way of a dream. Rabbi Yehuda says, begin the chol chalma midarga dilatata ihu v'dibor shalta aleha. Begin kach kol chalma az labasar pashra. Now Rabbi Yehuda is just coming to kind of push back, and not push back, but reinforce what we're saying. Why is it that the Chalom, which is under the auspices of the Gevura of Malchus, the Gevura in my mind, which is the place of the severity of thought, the intensification of thought that are based on the Hirurei Halev that were taking place during the day, where my mind is in a state of incubation and it's the process of the perpetual emergence and rapid firing nature of thought. That's the Gevura of Malchus. And the dream takes shape in the Hod of Malchus. Hod is Nifkam, that's the Kaf Yerach Yaakov, that's the place where it can go one way or the other. It's the Zohar Kadosh. Prior to its revelation, there was destruction. After its revelation, it's a rectification. That's the secret of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. On the one hand, prior to the revelation, it's Sham Avon, and the secret of Shimon, which is what we're seeing in this week's Parshios as well, that there's an element of inequity there. But when we uncover the deepest light of Rabbi Shimon, it's the secret of Mash Avon. We undo the negativity and we interpret all of the negativity to be revealed to be the secret of Tshuva Me'ahava. And that's the place of the Hod of Malchus. And then Hod of Malchus gets expressed within the Malchus of Malchus, which is the Peh, and that's why we have to interpret the dream with our mouths, and that interpreting the dream with language and articulating the narrative to the dream by way of the personal interpretation of the Poiter HaChalomos, the secret of the Tzaddik Yisod Olam, who has the ability to be Mezachich, the Nekuda HaSamadame of each and every year, as Rabbi Nachman did for Rabbi Nassan as well, that he gave him the Medame HaMezuchach, the Tzaddik within each and every one of us, the Tzaddik in the world, the Tzaddik B'Mtzias comes to interpret that dream to help us understand that because we have the capacity of uncovering the goodness that is inherent within this, we have to be careful about ensuring that we interpret it well. And Rabbi Yehuda, who represents Malchus, is coming to remind us why that is. Why is it that the Malchus of Malchus has the ability to be poiter, the Hoid of Malchus, which is the secret of the dream that comes from the Gevura of Malchus, by way of elevating it back up to the Bina of Malchus to be Mamtik the Dinim. So Rabbi Yehuda says explicitly because the level of the dream comes from Malchus, which is also the level of speech, which is Malchus, and Malchus reigns over the realm of Malchus, of speech, and speech realms over the realm of Malchus, and therefore begin kach kol chalma azir bashar pashra. That's why we're seeing a very clear mechanism that the Malchus is ultimately the fullness of Malchus, and therefore it has the capacity to determine the valence and the directionality of the Hod of Malchus, which is the dream. Pasach v'amar, Rabbi Yehuda opens up his mouth and he says, B'chaloim chizayon laila binpol terdema al anashim b'tmunos Allai mishkav az yegala oizen anashim ubemoisram yachtim. The pasuk in Eov in Perek Lamed Gimel says as follows: that I will reveal myself to them in the dream of the nighttime when one falls into slumber and their eyes are closing upon their beds. It's then that I will reveal the secrets to their ear of the individual, and I will allow it to be conveyed down to them. The secret of receiving the element of nevuah within the chalom itself. That's what's taking place here in the depth of the nighttime. Tachazi, come and see. When a person prepares themselves to go into sleep. Now, our entire consciousness is cut through with the realm of nocturnality, and that's not something we choose to do. And therefore, as the Meshiloch says, we have to interpret every dream of our lives in the benefit. But there's also the avoid of going to sleep. And going to sleep is a fundamental avoid. Like Yonah ben Amitai goes to sleep in the moment when things get rough. When Chizkiyahu HaMelech goes to sleep when things get rough. The bittul HaMuchletes inherent within the secret of the Shena HaAmuka of the Tzadikim is the reliance upon the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are running the ship. You've always been running the ship, and it's going to be the way that you want it to be. Going to sleep is that level of bittul. It's also the confidence that as I descend down into the nether territories of Bria, Atzira, and Asiya, and the nightscape, and that confusion of the mind, and the framework and the frequency of imagination when the seichel is no longer with me, and all that exists is the rishimu that was there originally. So there's a preparatory stage that a person has to go through. Going to sleep properly is a fundamental part of Avodas Hashem, especially in the Zohar Kadosh, especially in the writings of the Arizal, because ultimately it's the waking up at Chatzos Laila and uncovering the depth of light that rests hidden within the dark, dark, dark pockets of nighttime to reveal the mournful yearning over the Beis HaMikdash, which is in fact the ability to bring Beis HaMikdash into the present moment itself by way of imagination. And the secret of B'damecha chayi, B'damei chayi, that it's with my blood, with my imagination, that I will bring back to life the secret of the Chayim Ad Olam, the secret of the Beis Hamikdash, and Kol Mi Sheyesh Bodeya Ki'ilu Nivne Beis Hamikdash B'yamav, because as Rabbi Nachman says, Das, the Hisyashvas Das, which is the unity between imagination and Seichel, is ultimately the culmination of the emergence of the Beis Hamikdash within each and every one of our minds. So there's a process of Kriyat Shema Lamita, something that the Rebbe has been discussing for the past month or so. So Pasach V'Yamar, B'chalom Chazyon Laila Nimbol Tedem Al Anashim Batanchuma Al Mishkav Az Yigal Oizen Anashim Moisram Yachtim. Tachaz, you come and see Katzalik Barnash La'arsei, when a person goes to sleep, when a person gets ready to end the day, the first thing that a person has to do is ensure that they take upon themselves Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. They come to the place of being fundamentally aware of whatever it is that's about to happen is all within the realm of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whatever takes shape in this nightscape of experience is all rooted in the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And only afterwards we should say a pasuk of rachamim, of asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help. Yadko Afkid Ruchi Ve'is Ishan Ve'a'ira Ve'ukma Chavraya. And the Chavraya Kadisha already taught this. Begin daha Kad Barnash Noyim Al Arsei. Why is it that a person has to be Makabal Malchus Shemayim prior to going to sleep, and then going into a tefillah of rachamim and asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for rachamim? Begin the hakad barnash no'im al arse, when a person is sleeping upon their bed, ha nishma se nafkamine, their neshama leaves them. It's a 1/60th of death. Just like 1/60th, a dream is 1/60th of prophecy, so too 1/60th of death is sleep itself. That the neshama ascends upwards. It becomes a makif. It's no longer active, and therefore the unconscious mind comes to life, which is the chayos hayar, which are the animals of the forest that begin tearing and roaring and feeling like they're in charge right now. Begin to kad barnash noyim I say hanishma se nafkamine va'azil v'shatel le'ela. The neshama leaves the individual and it's mishotet in the worlds above. Shotet is also lashon of machshavas mishotetos, which is like ruminations, because when the neshama goes up and it goes to fly through all of the worlds to be masig what it's masig on its unconscious level, to come back down and illuminate us with the ramazim and the chizuk that we need for the next day of avodas Hashem, so too the mind on the lower level is also in a state of mishotet, so that it's wandering to and fro. Kol chad v'chad kifum orche. Each and every person has their own pathway. Each and every person has their own darga, like we started off the Zohar Kadosh with. Each and every person has their own pillar. Each and every person has their own way and their route towards coming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'hachi slikas kamad amart, and this is the path which each and every soul goes up in accordance to. Madachsiv b'chaloin chazir laila kad b'nei nosha shachve ba'arsayu. This is what the pasuk says, that in the nighttime vision, when the soul is sleeping upon its bed, a person falls asleep and the neshama ascends out of them and it goes up in a place of aliyas haneshama. And this is what the pasuk means when it says betrumos elai mishkav, that when my eyes are fluttering upon me and I'm sleeping, az yigala oizen anashim, at that point the bina of the individual, the unconscious, the deep unconscious goodness that rests at the heart of the individual, just waiting for us to interpret it properly, is revealed. Kahadein kudshabrichu udelei linishmase bahu darga the kaima al chama the and what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does at that point is it whispers into the soul itself from the perspective of where the soul comes from, which is the secret of the Gevura of Gavriel that expresses itself in the Hod of Malchus, waiting to be interpreted by the Malchus of Malchus. This is the level that is revealing to a person in the nighttime dream things that are going to take shape, intimations, senses, awareness, not Ruach HaKodesh, but certainly a sense of premonition that each and every person walks around with, that inner landscape of self that each and every one of us knows most intuitively, yet has not even begun the process of trying to convey it to another because of the impossibility of conveyance. What we have to understand is that each person lives with their own world of this territory, of the awakenings of possibility and anticipatory anxieties and hopes and intuitions that each and every person walks around with. Each person has this coming to them from their experience of the nighttime. It's the download that takes place, so to speak, but yet to reveal itself when the soul is in a state of slumber. Oh, and if it's not going to reveal itself in the element of something that stands at the ready to take shape with an intimation towards the future, inun milan kafun inun hirhurin deliba, or a person's mind is also going to be populated by things in accordance with their orientation and what they were thinking and their kind of thought constructs from throughout the day. We begin to barnash natil urche de toiche de alma begin to haloi midayin leila barnash ba'oid de iu kayim betukve de gufay. Keda'amrinam, ela malachei oidi lenishmase v'nishmase lebarnash, vahu chalma ihu mele'ela kad nishmasin nafkin migufa v'salkin kol chad v'chad kifum orche. And the Zohar Kadosh brings it back down to reveal exactly what's happening. When a person wakes up, they're bewildered. They don't know the true interpretation. They don't know the true interpretation at this point of the dream. And therefore, they're walking around not knowing this way or that way, and they're unsure as to how to proceed because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't reveal the picture onto the Chalom to the individual immediately. What it happens is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu whispers, so to speak, the picture of the Chalom to the Neshama. And then the Neshama is up there, and then it comes down and it starts whispering it to us. So it's that unconscious work that each of us have to do to uncover the inherent goodness of our narrative. And again, we are the ones who choose the narrative. We are not coming to uncover some history that took place prior to the emergence of the self in some Jungian way, God forbid. What we're doing is we're coming to terms with the fact that the development of the self in the dreamlike scape is the very essence of the self and the secret of the Freudian model, which is that I don't know in the end of the day. All I know is that I'm in the process of dreaming and that that dream is going to have an interpretation. Not that that dream has some static meaning that means this because this is what happened. No, there's no static meaning of a dream. Chazal gave suggestions. Chazal gave interpretations that each and every person has to then incorporate into their perspective of their own world's view of how to interpret their dream, which is their consciousness. But ultimately, there's no fixed meaning to the dream. That's the nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. By the level of Chalom Adaber Bo, it's the secret that there is no fixed meaning to the dream, and that in and of itself is the fixed meaning of the dream, that I am the one who is in control of the emergence of the narrative structure with which I'm going to look at my life. That is in accordance with each and every person in accordance to their levels. The Kama Dargan al Dargan. Whoa, how many levels upon levels are there? Beraza de Chalma, there's the secret of the dream. Kula Beraza de Chachmas, and all of them have to be seen through the realms of Chachma, even though we're entering into the nighttime of Bina. It all has to be seen in the realm of Chachma because Nevuah is the Giloy of Chacham b'toich halev, the secret of Chachma, the knowledge that everything is good, which is the Torah of the Chasidus and the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh and the Gra, and then going into the realm of imagination, prior to the all goodness that comes about from the radical affirmation of the Chachma, Shebechol Davar, of the radical Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim that I take upon myself before I go to sleep. I cannot begin to ask for Rachamim about my Chalomos, because left to my own devices, I will assume it to be negative, I will assume it to be stuck, and I will assume it to be broken. It's specifically with the pre-orientation towards radical goodness, that it's Baruch Sha'amar V'haya Ha'olam. It's a good dream. How is it a good dream? Okay, let's figure out how it's a good dream. It was a good moment. How was it a good moment? Okay, at least we know it was a good moment. Now the fact that we don't know how it's a good moment, that just means that it hasn't been revealed to us yet. But what we know radically true is the secret that it's a good moment. This is the secret of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Chia, both understanding the secret of the dream, specifically from a perspective of Chachma itself, which illuminates the goodness of it and then allows us to descend down into the territory where the actual interpretation is not yet revealed. Beraz de Chalma Kulya Beraz de Chachmasa. It all has to be seen through the secret of Chachma. V'tachazi, and come and see, Chaloim Dargachada, a dream is one level. Mara Dargachada, Amara, another level. All of these are taking shape within the gradations of Malchus. Nevuah, Dargachada, the Nevuah, which we discussed, is coming from the Netzach and Hod, which are operant in the realm of Zer Anpin. And if we look in Parshas Vayeishev with the Bir of the Baal Sulam there, we see a full clarification of these levels. V'kula Dargin, Ledargin, Ilin al Ilin. All of these levels and all of the levels contained within them are folded one upon the other. V'yachlam Yosef Chalom. And Yosef dreamt a dream. V'yaged la'achiv, and he told it over to his brothers. V'yosifu oid. Shana oisai al Chalamoisav, and they hated him even more as a result of their dream. Now the Zohar HaKadosh is coming to tell us how not only to function with this reality in and of ourselves, but how to function with friends, how to speak to people, the chavraya, meaning to go to someone with the dream. It's okay if a person doesn't want to be the interpreter of their own dreams, of their own meaning in this world, because it used to be that a person would go to a Navi and the Navi would interpret it. But each and every person has to have their friends, which are a stand-in for the Nevi'im, the friends which help a person come to the place of the Tzaddik, as we see in this week's Parsha with Yehuda and his friend, that a person can only come to the Darg of Tzaddik and Mashiach with the help along the way from friends. So what happens when I'm encountering this dreamlike scape and my life is turning into that awareness of the nightmare, that I'm afraid, there are things that are causing me disorientation, I'm not doing okay, I'm struggling, all of these different things. It's prior to the revelation of Malchus Bezichucha and Tikuna, and I'm still operating in that place of terror and not feeling good about myself. So then I have to go to a friend. I have to go to someone who loves me. I have to have that radical affirmation of purpose and meaning in my life, and I cannot allow myself to go to people who have negative feelings about me. I cannot let myself trust others with giving me some element of narration to my story unless I know that that person has my best interest and goodness in heart for me. This is what happened with Yosef. Yosef went to his brothers, and the brothers already didn't like Yosef. And because the brothers already didn't like Yosef, now their hearing of the dream and their interpretation of the dream and that narrative playback that they're going to give back to the Bal HaChalom is going to be negative, and it's going to memela transform the dream into negativity. Because, like we said, the narrative goes in accordance with the interpretation of the narrative. This is the profound, profound level of responsibility that comes with giving eitzos, with connecting oneself to a place of eitzah. But if a person connects themselves to the ish tfuna, to the ish tfuna, who has the tzaddik, who has the ability of drawing out eitzos neflaos me chachma amuka, so then a person just has to continue to give the eitzos of the tzaddik. But ultimately, what we say to another person, the interpretation that we give to another person's processing or what they're describing to us, has a significant impact on how that other person is going to receive it. And we learn this from Yosef Atzadik, because after telling the dreams to his brothers, not only did they not interpret it well, but they hated him even more. Tachazit, Yosef Ihu Amar Chalma La'achoy, that Yosef says his dream over to his brothers. From here we learn that a person should not tell their dream, their vision, their narrative, their thought structure, their issue over to another person, unless it's clear that the other person loves them and has care for them. Because as a result of that, somebody else can cause the dream to depart, or can cause the dream to go in another direction. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to surround ourselves by people who are only going to tell us good things, God forbid. The secret of our friend is that they know how to properly say something negative, because it's not negative. They're pointing out a deficiency or a defect of character, but the friend has the radical affirmation of the self. And the secret of Hayoshevet Baganim Chaverim Makshivim, as Rabbi Nosson quotes from the Heilige Zohar Kadosh, that Ganim, to sit in a garden with a friend, Ganim comes from the language of Gnus, of something that is disgusting. A good friend is someone who has the capacity to sit with you when you're down and out, when you feel broken, when you don't know the next step. And a friend is someone who's able to not kick you when you're down, but rather to find the nekudos tovos within that broken place itself, and to sit there with you, with the gnusa, because they're able to identify the gnusa within themselves. It's the secret of ayin v'ayin yiru b'shuv Hashem Sion, as the Meshiloch says, that each person is going to feel that they were alone in their struggles, that they were singularly unique in their struggle, and that it would have been impossible to share the burden with another person. And then in redemption, what's going to happen is I'm going to meet my brother in the street, and I'm going to say, Achi, you have to hear what happened to me in exile. You're not going to believe the nightmare I just had. You're not going to believe it. And after listening confidently and patiently and intently to the dream of his brother, so the next person is going to open their eyes and say, brother, you have no idea. You're not going to believe it. I went through the same thing. I went through the same difficulty. And at that point, each person is going to look towards one another and say, Ki ata avinu, that you are a Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're the one, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that reveals the light of Gevura, to be mamtik, all of the dinim, and that each and every person goes through that process. And that's going to be the secret of ayin ba'ayin yir b'shuv Hashem Sion, that each eye that had their eyes on their own dream is going to meet the other and realize that, wow, we went through the same dream as well. And we came from the bottom, and now we find ourselves functioning at the top and trying to connect to light. Tachazi, come and see. The Yosef you Amr Chalma la'achoy va'ada garmilei l'salka chalmei train v'esrin shanin d'ma'akiv. That Yosef Atzadik told his dream over to his brothers, who did not have his best interests at heart in accordance with their understanding, and as a result of it, it pushed it off for 22 years. Rabbi Yossi Amar Minola and Rabbi Yossi said, how do we know that someone's interpretation can cause the process to go off track, and it can cause a person to have to do a lot more work than they theoretically should have had to do? Because really, when a person has a dream like Yosef and they say the dream, a friend should be able to interpret it as they see fit, with the rachamim and the ahava of the dreamer themselves. And therefore, that goodness could have been accomplished in a very positive way for Yosef right away. But because there was a certain element of disconnection there, so it caused the ultimate gift that was going to come about, meaning, because Yosef Hatzadik's dream was on the level of a nevuah as well, and as Rav Yosef Engel points out, and ultimately it had to be mitkayim to a certain degree, but what the brothers did was, because it was a dream-like nature of nevuah, so therefore their interpretation had the ability to defer the nevuah for an extended period of time. Rabbi Yossi Amar, and it could be 22 years, 22 letters of the Aleph Beis, in accordance with the 22 letters that give birth to the shape of the speech that the brothers used in order to interpret the dream. Rabbi Yosi Amar Minallah, and Rabbi Yosi, the secret of Gevura, because it's the secret of the Gematria of Elohim. What does he say? Where do we know the power of interpretation of dreams from? Vayosifu Oid Sana Oso. My son also, why did they continue to hate him? What does it mean that they hated him? The Garmule Ketrugin Bada, meaning they caused him real issues. The brothers' negative interpretation of Yosef's events and the negative portrayal of that narrative had a real impact on Yosef HaTzadik. Mike Siv, the pasuk says, "V'yomer aleim shimuna hachaloim hazeh." Yosef HaTzadik says to his brothers, "Please hear this dream to me. Asher chalamti deba'i minayu diyishmunlei. I want you to hear this dream. V'ihu oidi lehu hahu chalma de'elmalei inun de'ahafchulei legavna achra hachi et kayim v'inun et yahuvu ve'amru hamloich timloich aleinu and mashal timshal banu miad amrulei Parsha dechalma v'gazru gzeru begin kach v'yosifo ed shnawi." So this is what Rav Yossi says. This is a very important thing, that the interpretation of speech, if it's done negatively, Rav Yossi represents the gvuros of the Malchus, which is the ability for the brothers to interpret the dream in a severe way, in a negative way, That Yosef HaTzadik says, I want to tell you a dream. And as a result of him telling them that dream, they transform the dream into a different color, into a different shade. Otherwise, this dream would have been accomplished. It would have been taken care of. But instead, the brothers said, oh, you're really going to be king over us? You're really going to rule over us? Had they not said it, it would have happened immediately, and it would have been taken in a good way, in a clarified way. But as a result of their negative interpretation, Gazru Gzeru begin kachvi asifo so. Meaning, when a person learns Torah Chasidus, when a person tries to taste of the sweet, redemptive light of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, and we own our imagination, we own our narrative structure to reorient ourselves and the relationship that we have with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, all of the pockets of difficulty and concealment in being human are in fact the very site in which I'm meant to encounter HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is a picture of Chalomos. This is the interpretation of the dreams that the tzaddikim came. They saw a dream of this worldliness, and they said, no, this is how you have to interpret the dream. This is how you have to interpret the dream. You have to interpret it properly. But the cynicism, the deep cynicism against that belief, and also the infantile metaphysics associated with a belief like this, leave it to still not be properly understood. The secret of Hasidus, the secret message of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, was a redemption of imagination, that the imagination is a real thing. It's a chefza shel davar. And that when a person has the capacity of refining their imagination and bringing it back into Avodas Hashem, then the Nefesh HaBahamis also begins to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then this entire world, is the Dir B'Tachtonim, also becomes the place in which we're going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if we interpret it negatively, if we tell somebody something negative, if we belittle the belief that Yesh Inyan She'etapecha Kol, if we belittle the message of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, which is that a person finds themselves where their thoughts are, and that this entire world is a dream, and the message of the Gra as well, then we poison it for another person. Then we take away the tokef, we take away the power that these thought constructs and these mechanisms of psychological and spiritual health that tzaddikim give us, we take away their potency and their strength. If a person interprets the dream wrong and say, no, that's just Hasidus, they don't understand Hasidus, they don't understand the mission of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, they don't understand what Torah Hasidus is actually coming to do in terms of preparing the world for Mashiach Tzidkenu, who's the secret of the Birur Hamadame Legamre, which is the secret of the Shchita of the Yitzhahara, which is the Nekuda of the Madame being included within Avodas Hashem, which is the birthplace of Nevuah, B'yad HaNeviah Madame. So the Zohar Kadosh here ends with such a beautiful, beautiful story. So Reb Chia and Reb Yossi, both of whom were Manda Amrim in this conversation, have a shchiche kaimed Rabbi Shimon. They found themselves in front of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Amar Rabbi Chia says, Hataninan, we learned in the Gemara in Brachos, Chalma delay is pasher ki igarta delay mitkare, that an uninterpreted dream is like a letter that is not read. I begin de is kayim v'ihu lo yada, od lo is kayim klal. What's the status? They said to Rabbi Shimon. Something that's not looked at, something that's not processed, something that has yet to come into fruition in my mind, something that has not yet been grasped. Yet it exists, yet it's revealed. What does it mean? What does it mean? Anything that is revealed, any chalom that is revealed, if it's not grasped, it's like a letter that was written that was not read. So the question that Reb Chia and Reb Yossi are asking are, what's happening here? Is it just that it doesn't take place because it's the interpretation and the reading of it that gives it shape and its essence? Or does it take place and it's just waiting to be interpreted? It's like an unread letter. But why is that? Why is the letter unread? Begin it kayim lo yada. The letter is there. I just don't know about it. Oh, the lo is kayim klal. Or is it that it just doesn't exist and it's waiting for me to become aware of it? Amrlei, Rabbi Shimon says to them, it's kayim v'lo yada. It exists. It's just not known. Dahahu chalma chayla talya aleh v'ihu lo is yada v'lo yada is kayim ilo is kayim. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai answers them very clearly. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai answers the question of Rav Yossi and Rav Chia as follows. Rav Yossi and Rav Chia say, okay, Rabbi, you've taught us that there's a chalom, that there's the imagination, there's the emergence of possibility that rests within the self at all times. There's an inner movement prior to actualization, which is the merging of the gvura within me, with the hod within me, with the malchus within me, and the secret of the emergent properties of the chalom, adaberbo, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to me through that depth of unconscious meaning that has not yet been revealed. So, okay, but we also have a klal, that if it's not accessed, and I don't utilize this knowledge, then it's as if the thing doesn't exist. That any dream that is not interpreted, any dream that is not known, is like a letter that has not been read. And so the Talmidim, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chia, are coming to the Rebbe and saying, okay, you taught us about a spiritual truth, but what happens if we don't engage in it? This is powerful. It's a powerful idea, but what happens now if we don't actually live with it on a regular basis? What's the status of the unread nature of the letter? Because we're going to enter into a place where all of this information about the chalom is going to be unaccessed. We're not going to be able to use it properly. And so there's going to be a chalom that is not interpreted. But what's the status of its unreadability? Is it that it just doesn't exist and there's no spiritual benefit taking shape because I'm not actively engaged in it and it depends only on the responsibility of me, which is a heavy thing, that only when I'm tapped in is it there, but when I'm not tapped in, it's mamish not there? Or is it a more redemptive way of looking is that it's there, the spiritual light is there, it's just not accessed yet? To a certain degree, this is ultimately two ways of looking at any question of tzimtzum, meaning theoretically, is the tzimtzum, is the din that something is not revealed right now, meaning the dream not being revealed because it's not being processed, like a letter that is not being read, like a moment that is not being encountered. Is it that it doesn't exist, it left the field, it's no longer there? Or is that it's there, it's just there in a hidden way? Those are the two options. Is the fact that I'm not engaging and utilizing the spiritual tools drawn down by the tzaddikim, drawn down by the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, drawn down through the Yechidei Hadoros, Moshe, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbeinu Ha'arizal, the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Nachman, Nachman Levei Makor Chachman, all of the tzaddikim. Does the fact that I'm not utilizing it mean that it doesn't exist, or does it exist and it's still doing its work on an unconscious level and it's just waiting for me to benefit and actually tap into it? Meaning, is life meaningful even when it feels meaningless, or is the need for a meaningful life fully dependent on my ability to find meaning in it? Or am I good only when I feel good and I have reason to feel good, or I'm always good, I just might not be aware of the fact that I'm good? That's the shaila here. And Rabbi Shimon answers them very clearly. Amar Lei says unequivocally, it's kayim v'lo isyada. It exists, it is just not known. It exists, it is just not known. It's there. All of the lights are there. All of the lights are there. All of the goodness is there. All of the possibility is there. The letter is there, waiting to be read. The information is there, waiting to be revealed. The light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there, waiting to be mizuchach and clarified and processed. The treasure always rests just beneath our feet. This is the gilui of the Torah of the tzaddikim, the Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Torah of the Nachal Levei Makor Chachma, the yichud of the Nachal Levei Makor Chachma with Rabbi Shimon. The secret of Rabbi Nachman opening up his book with L'hu chazu mifalei Hashem asher sham shamu ba'aretz. Asher sham shamus ba'aretz. Look at the greatness of God who put such desolation in the land. Desolation, emptiness. Al tikra shamos, don't read desolation, ela shemos. Rather, read it as names. This is the secret of interpretation of dreams. Nothingness that gives weight to somethingness. A nighttime that reveals more and more and more. Od yoter tov, from within that place of the nesiv, lo yada ayit, which is Rosh Tevos od yoter tov. And so Rabbi Shimon says unequivocally, it's kayim, it's all there, v'lo is yada, it's just not known. Daha hahu chalma chela talia aleha, v'ihu lo yis yada. The strength of the chalom depends on the revelation of it. I just don't know about it. V'lo yade, and it's not grasped. Is kayim, lo yis kayim, it's not known whether it's going to be revealed or not. But in truth, this is how everything in reality functions. It comes down into a state of potential. And in that state of potential, it's unclear as to what the outcome of it is going to be. But nevertheless, in that state of potential, it actually exists. It's there. There's no tzimtzum. Everything is there. It's just waiting to be revealed in accordance with its particular valence, either by way of a chalom, or al yedei de kruza, or by way of the chruz, that's yotze mehar choyrev b'chol yom, the baskel that comes out, waiting to reveal it, the ha'itmar, as it's written, b'chol mila v'mila, every word, ad lo yesel al mechraze alei barakia. It's announced, it takes place above. We intuate its emergence. On the inner levels of existence, it's already there, waiting to be revealed. All we have to do is dig a little bit deeper to the secret of Higalena to break down the last barrier, the last wall of Edom, the last wall of the Dinyon that's not Mezuchach, the last wall of Klipa, because we're the element of Moshe Rabbeinu who's been eating away from the snake at the belly of the snake itself, which is the secret of the Mechokek, which is the engraving of imagination, as Rabbi Nachman explains, within the mind itself, so that when it comes time, all of the work is already done, the lights are already there. All we have to do is hear the chruz and prepare ourselves to open our minds up to the letter that is there in front of us, to the Igeres, to the dream, to the secret of Megillas Esther, to the secret of Igeres Hapurim Hazeh, which is a dream, which is what each and every one of us are going through, waiting to have that dream of the Megillah, that fever dream of the Megillah and the hellish landscape of it and the terror of it, waiting for Mashiach Tzidkenu, as Rabbi Nosson says, to interpret it and to reveal the Megillas Esther to each and every one of us. It's waiting, waiting. Everything is waiting. Every word is waiting to come into the world. It's waiting in the Rakia. Umiteiman is Pashid Balma, and it's from there, from the Rakia, from the Ikr, from the Tzaddik Yisod Oilam, from the Poiter Achalomos, from Yosef HaTzaddik, from Yaakov. Miteiman is Pashit Balma. It's from there, from the Yesod, that it expresses itself down in the world. All of this is because what's the reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals everything prior to its actual revelation, so that we can live with the comfort of the fact that everything is there in spite of the fact that it's not yet revealed, and even though I haven't grasped it or felt it yet, it's still there, an active principle in my life. It's just operating by way of concealment rather than revelation, so that I can stop looking at it as if, no, I have no letter, there's no letter to be read, and instead I can say, no, there's a letter, it just hasn't been read yet. It's a far more comfortable place. What's the reason for this? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ki lo yasa Hashem Elokim davar ki im gala saydei lavadav hanaviyim. Hashem is not going to do anything until He lets His servants, the Nevi'im, know about it first. Bezinna de Nevi'im ishtachachu ba'alma, when there are Nevi'im who are around in the world, so they're the ones who receive the information. V'ilav, and if not, in exile, afagav de nevuah lo isharia, even though we don't have nevuah, chachime adife minevim, that each and every person has a wisdom, chachma, that is on a certain level greater than prophecy. V'ilo, and if not, isyahiv b'chalma, it's given over in a dream. V'iloi b'tzafrei shmayim mishtachachei mila v'ha'ukma. And if it's not heard in the dream, then it's going to be heard in the birds of the sky. So what Rabbi Shimon is saying is that the way that everything comes down into existence, everything is there already. The light of Hasidus reveals to us the secret of the Chalom Adaberbo, that every goodness that is waiting to be revealed by way of the Chalom and the secret of Hayinu Kecholmim, of the great uncovering of the dream, is already there at the ready. It's just waiting to come down. There's no deficiency. There's no emptiness. It's just a question of revelation and Higalena. And the secret of the Chamishe Yechidei Hadoros is ultimately the gradations of revelation. The gradations of revelation that are allowed to be revealed in accordance with the essential drops of spirituality and vitality of infinite light that comes down through the Torah of the Tzaddikim throughout history, allowing us to be patient and strong enough to wait until Mashiach Tzidkenu comes. But Rabbi Shimon says there's 4 ways in which the insight comes down. There's 4 ways in which that ever-present light that is not yet interpreted but never absent comes down, so that we can interpret it properly, to elevate our imaginations and to come back to a place of understanding what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. From understanding the desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Ratzon of Hashem today in accordance with ourselves, in this hour in accordance with ourselves, in this minute in accordance with ourselves, that each and every person in accordance with their own oircha, with their own pathway, with their own darga upon darga upon darga upon darga. So Rabbi Shimon says, first and foremost, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the tzaddikim, and therefore the rule is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu whispers everything to the tzaddikim, and all of us are tzaddikim. And each and every one of us knows the pre-existence of something prior to its actualization. And first it's revealed to the Nevi'im. That's the level of Yud. If there's no Nevi'im, it's revealed to the Chachamim, that's the level of Hey. If it's not revealed to the Chachamim, it's revealed to the Chalom, which is the level of Vav. Again, all of these are gradations within self. And if it's not revealed to the Chalom, then it's revealed to the Tzipoyer and the Alma. It's revealed to the birds of the world. And it's hidden within the words of the bird, the chirping of the birds, the singing of the birds that David HaMelech wanted to understand, that Shlomo HaMelech wanted to understand. The secret of Kol Oif Shaperech Ba'avir Nisraf, and the secret of controlling that place of the Oaf, that place of the Malachim, that place of those felt senses that emerge from outside of us and the receptors that we have, just the intuition about what's what and how we're feeling and where we're at and checking in with ourselves. That's the secret of the birds of the world who keep score. Those tziporim, that secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu who rests in the Kan Tzipor, and that place of the Rachamim Rabim, of the ability to uncover the true secret of the Tzipor, which is the Yonah Matzah B'Manoach, the secret of the Yonah, which leaves the Teva of Noach. Tevas Noach is like the bed in which a person goes to sleep because the stormy sea is out there, like Yonah ben Amittai. And then Yonah gets sent out to see if a person can wake up to come and interpret their dream. And the Yonah finally finds a place. And Yonah ben Amittai also finds a place. Yonah is that language of ona'ah, of not knowing, of being stuck in a sense of imagination. As the Halakat Tzadikim point out, as Rav Aaron Halevi points out, based on the Balatanya, Yonasi Tamasi, that even though I'm inauthentic, even though I'm still stuck in a dreamscape, even though I'm still stuck in that wandering and not knowing the true definition of this dream, nevertheless, it's still true. Yonah ben Amittai, a trickery that is true because I'm wandering around in the dreamscape of my experience, and I'm trying to find the Malachei Libi. I'm trying to find the Malachim of my heart. The malachim of my heart, which interpret the dreams and the moments of conscious awareness, and every moment is a dream waiting to be interpreted. As Mordechai Yosef, Leiner of Ishbitz, points out, Mordechai Yosef, the secret of Mordechai, the tzaddik of the Megillah, Yosef, the tzaddik of the Hester of Mitzrayim, the two Geulos of Geulas Mitzrayim and Geulas Mordechai that bring about that third gam, which we saw from the last week's Zohar Kadosh, the secret of Geulas Mashiach. And we should be zeichet to dream interpretation. We should be zeichet to hear the chirping of the birds in our minds that are telling us of our goodness, Those birds that chirp their songs from the Heichal of Mashiach Tzidkenu, reminding us of how good we are, not like the cry of the Orev, which is saying rak ra, rak ra, rak ra, saying it's only bad, but rather to listen to the song of the Yonah that whispers and coos to us. The secret of Ruach HaPeinu Mashiach Hashem, as the pasuk in Vayeishev says, that Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'haaretz v'haaretz haisatohu v'vohu v'choshech ha'pnei tohim v'ruach Elokim merachepes ha'pnei hamayim. The descent from Bereshis bara Elokim into the depths of nighttime, into the depths of concealment, in the tohu v'vohu, and all of the choshech ha'kaful u'mechupel, and all of the unconsciousness. But it's specifically there that Ruach Elokim merachepes ha'pnei hamayim, that the spirit of Hakadosh Baruch Hu hovers over the water. This is the Ruach of Mashiach. This is the secret of the Malchus HaGenuza Beradlah, the Malchus that is hidden in the Beis Zohar. It's hidden, concealed, hated, despised, Evan Masu Abanim. But then when we come to find the benefit of the addition of interpretation, of translation, of dreaming, of davening, of emunah, of the lower elements of concealment, so often despised by the perspective of Avodas Hashem, and we see that we can elevate it out of its prison in the secret of Chava, which is that's brought to Adam in a place of concealment and unconsciousness. And then we can go from that Yud test, which is Gematria Chava, to the secret of uncovering the secret of Lamdas from within the bayis of the Misnagdim, which is the application of Medame to Shas itself, which is the secret of the Derech of the Grov, Torah Lishma, and then to come from there to the Chaf Adimyon of the Chaf of Anoichi, which is the recognition that no matter what I grasp, no matter what I come to grasp, ultimately I grasp that I can't grasp anything, and that everything is ultimately still in a state of medama until HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself comes to be poiter the chalom, when it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who's ba and shachat l'malach hamaves, and that's the geula ha'mitas that we're waiting for, and that's the secret of b'chalom adaber bo, and it should be soon, it should be now, it should be tekef umiyad, that just as a person can dream for 15 minutes and feel that they've lived 1,000 years, as Rabbeinu points out, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu should see the exile of however long it's been and see it as long enough and reveal the secret of be'ita achi and the secret of the tzaddikim amitim, and we should be zeichet to the hamtaka gemura of the chalomos, to be megala the secret of nevuah, b'chalom adaber bo, and the secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the malchus hagnuza beradlo.